Day one of training camp is in the books. And right from the start, Jonathan Gannon comes out and shows us that he's going to be multiple. Let's talk about the origins. Let's talk about what we can expect from Jonathan Gannon's system. What's up, Cerebral Football fans? My name is Stephen Heyer. This is Gate City Sports Channel, and I just want to start off today's video by saying a special thank you to each and every person. We are officially over 6,000 subscribers. Hey, we're on the road to 7,500, guys. If you guys enjoyed today's content and you would love to be a part of this community or like to be a part of this community, hey, man, I'd love to add you. Just need you to subscribe to do that. To my OG subscribers, you already know I'm going to ask you to do, guys. Keep hitting that like button. Keep smashing the thumbs up button. Help me spike the algorithm. Gets us in front of new audience members that we can potentially convert into our little community here, y'all. All right, y'all. Today's topic. Sorry, guys. I was losing my voice there. I want to talk about Jonathan Gannon, this system, this scheme, what's been reported from day one, what I've learned from researching Jonathan Gannon and his influences and just all that stuff together, right? To begin with, from day one, what we learned is from Elliott Shore Parks. You know, Elliott Shore said, simply put, looks like lots of 34 and 43 from the defense, meaning he's giving you multiple looks right from the start. I will caution. Let's caution this, guys. He did this last year too, and then we fell into what we fell into, which was a lot of 50 fronts. So I'm going to say grain of salt here. Grain of salt, if you will. A good mix. Probably a little more 34, though. Hashtag Eagles, Elliott Shore Parks. All right. Let's start off with the defensive concepts here. As I went through and I was studying the guys who have influence over Jonathan Gannon, like where he came from, what are the origins of this young man? We all know the two big names that always get thrown around, right? We know that he came up as an assistant secondary coach with the Minnesota Vikings underneath, Mike Zimmer's scheme, Mike Zimmer's system, right? Very heavy pressure blitz system that incorporates, a lot of safety play and a lot of quarters coverage concepts, if you will. And the other influence over him is Matt Eberflus. Matt Eberflus, also a guy who likes to play a lot of too-high safety, but doesn't do a lot of overhang and is far more passive in terms of bringing extra defenders to get after the quarterback. So, to some extent, similarities, to some extent, kind of contradictions here between these two systems. But nonetheless, those are the two guys that we normally know about. Some other guys that, should probably be brought into the conversation. Number one guy that we should talk about is the guy who brought up not only Brandon Staley, but also brought up Jonathan Gannon, who's Jerry Gray, who's now currently the defensive backs coach of the Green Bay Packers. I believe he was the defensive back coach of the Minnesota Vikings when Gannon was there. And then going all the way back to the early 2010s, he was actually the defensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans during their internship phases, Brandon Staley and Jonathan Gannon. So those four guys in particular, Zimmer, Eberflus, Jerry Gray, and the last guy being Vic Fangio. Those four guys in particular, those are the guys I wanted to go back through and I wanted to see, well, who are their influences? Who influenced them? There's a couple of interesting names, guys, that popped up. A couple of things that shook out. Number one thing that shook out was Buddy Ryan and how that 46 defensive front impacted the entire NFL. I always think about it as the Eagles. I never realized that after Buddy Ryan had success with the Bears and then with the Eagles in the 80s, that even Steve Sidwell of the Saints, if you guys remember the Saints in the early 90s and how great that linebacking core was, Buddy Ryan mostly running 40 fronts, Steve Sidwell run 30 fronts, where Buddy Ryan allocated the majority of his resources to the front seven, the defensive line in particular. Steve Sidwell was a little different, and he allocated more to the back seven and the linebackers in particular. But both of those systems, you know what? It was the 46. It's the concept and the ideas of having overhang defenders in a 46 front and then getting these fast-flowing linebackers, will linebacker in particular, changing the shape and the role of a will linebacker, and then also walking your safety down, kind of like we used to do with Malcolm Jenkins and Jim Schwartz's system, walking that safety down as an overhang defender that, hey man, that caught the league by storm. Like, the league had a hard time adjusting to that. We had two very early coaches who impacted a lot of different dudes. I mean, listen, Matt Eberflus is going to eventually run into Rob Ryan, who's, obviously the son of Buddy Ryan. And then you got Rex Ryan and Rex Ryan's coaching tree, which, that's also included here. You got to look at that. And then you go to a guy like Steve Sidwell, Steve Sinwell has his kind of, his coaching tree, which includes Vic Fangio, who everyone's trying to copy right now, and then Dom Capers, former Green Bay Packer defensive coordinator, who was their defensive coordinator when they won the Super Bowl. So definitely the coaching tree is kind of complex when you look at concepts and ideas and where they came from, right? But what we can say is this definitively. We know that this concept and this idea of overhang defenders, whether it's going to be in a 50 front where you got a true nose tackle, you got an under front where you got a free technique towards the weak side, lined up on somebody, and then you're walking a Sam linebacker down to be the overhang rusher. In a 30 front where you got 2 D linemen down on the line of scrimmage and you got 2 overhangs, think Vic Fangio guys, or in a 40 front, a lot of people predicted probably what the Eagles will do, where you got a guy like, say, a 7 or a wide 9, say Josh Sweat lined up like that, and then you're taking your edge rusher the other opposite side, and you're standing him up like a joker and you're rushing him. You got overhangs. There's an overhang concept built into the system, built into the scheme. This is where it gets confusing, because I was hoping that Elliott Shore-Parks or somebody would tell us how they play people. Who was lined where? Who was on the first team? I didn't see it, guys. I saw nothing reported like that. If you can see who the first team defense was and you can tell me where to go look for that, guys, I would greatly appreciate that. I would want to actually see that personally, because there's a lot to be learned here, to be known. To begin with, do I think the Eagles will still be a 50 front? I think it's a very high probability on first downs, where if you go back and you track according to StatHead, guys, on first downs from 2017 to 2021, so the last 5 years, a half decade worth of data here, there were 78,247 first down plays run in the league. Of those 78,000 plays, 38,822, roughly 50%, 49.6 to be exact, were running plays. On first down, I truly and honestly expect the Steve Sidwell aspect of this equation to come to the forefront. Steve Sidwell had the concept and the idea that you stop the run on first down to put people into compromising second and third downs, where you can then bring your pass rush, where you can then mix up your coverages and try to take advantage of teams, right? Where you got Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan had the famous quote where he said, we're not going to let quarterbacks just sit back there all day and pick us apart. We're bringing the heat. Steve Sidwell was, we're going to stop the run early, and then we're going to make it hard for you on second and third down, right? So I do think you could still see some 50 front defenses here. And when I look at the personnel, and I don't know, guys, I mean, I'm as clueless as you when it comes to this, because it's not like I'm in the meeting rooms. I have no more knowledge than you do. I'm just judging the personnel we have and what I know from coaching myself and scouting. I'll say that it makes a ton of sense to me that you would play Jordan Davis down as your nose tackle, anywhere between the 2-eye alignment to like a zero shade or even a true zero tech. And then you flank him by guys like Fletcher Cox, especially on those rundowns where you want Fletcher Cox and you want Jordan Davis on that line of scrimmage, because you want to make it really difficult to run the football. And then you got Javon Hargrave, who could potentially play as, are you going to go 3 defensive tackles, basically? Are you going to flank Jordan Davis by 2 defensive tackles? Are you going to go a NASCAR package? You're going to take a guy like Brandon Graham, who's a veteran dude that although he's undersized, that dude can stop the run. He's very good with his hand placement, his hand use, and he's fast off the snap. He can beat you. Milton Williams, good initial pass rush move, right? Good guy that can potentially shoot the gap if you're one gapping with that other defensive tackle. We know Jordan Davis is probably going to 2 gap, but those other defensive tackles don't necessarily have to do that. You got a Sam linebacker here in terms of walking him down as the overhang and Hassan Reddick. What do you do with Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham? I'm hearing reports that they might potentially be stood up in 34 fronts. They might be the other overhang to Hassan Reddick. Might be Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat. It's difficult, guys. I mean, I don't think that's where their strength lies, personally, those 2 players, but we'll see if they can handle the role. Brandon Graham's done it before, and Josh Sweat has done it as actually as well in college. So, hard to predict, hard to say, but that's what I see right from the jump. I just wish I knew how they align things. I know Fletcher Cox wasn't actually a full participant today because of illness. But nonetheless, this defensive front's going to get interesting. This is going to be a really interesting conversation. And then we got to get to the back 7. What are they doing in terms of the coverage schemes behind them? Vic Fangio, who everyone's trying to copy, he patented what we call the quarter-half. in layman's terms, guys, cover 6. The way cover 6 normally works is when you go to the strong side of the field, right, where basically where you have the greatest amount of receiving options. You're normally running quarters coverage towards that side. And then on the weak side of the field, or where you have a true number 1 wide receiver, like a guy you want to move out of the game, you normally play basically cover 2 to that side, half the field, right? So you can cloud your coverage, take one of your corners, put him up on the line of scrimmage, and challenge that guy's release off the line of scrimmage with safety help over the top of him. And then you got quarters coverage, so it's a split field coverage, basically, guys. Cover 6 is going to be a pure quarters coverage, right? Are they going to drop to a zone? They just drop back and they're playing the grass. Are they going to play match quarters where, hey, we are dropping back, we are playing spots, but if anyone cuts off before, I don't know, let's say 10 yards, well, then we pick them up and we carry them. That's our assignment. It's tough to say, guys. It's going to be an interesting season, guys. There's going to be a lot to be learned here about what is it that Gannon wants to do. How many linemen are you going to play? If you play a 40 front, how are you aligning your guys? If you play a 34, how are you going to line that 34? Are you only going to have 2 down linemen with their hands in the dirt? Are we looking at Fletcher Cox and, Javon Hargrave, and then you're mixing in Jordan Davis and Milton Williams from here and there, and then you got 2 overhang defenders, the Vic Fangio style of things? It's basically a 3-3-5 when you're in nickel, guys. Hard to say. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all's time and attention. If you discovered any of the notes I talked about, if you know, hey, Steve, this person did report actually who was on first team for the defense, I'd like to see that list, guys. I have not found it yet. So if you have access to that or you know who does, hit me up, guys. I want to know that. Tell me in the comment section. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all's time and attention, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video.